So we are after the last presentation, and the whole panel was really interesting because not only it was not connected only with those 5 magnificent presentations, but also because of the I have to say the time. We are only 5 minutes late. Yes, we are in time, so maybe in this first part I once again would like to thank you for your presentations. Thank you for possibility to be here with you. I'm really impressed by those problems, by those presentations, and I'm really inspired also as a researcher and also as a director of the Institution of Culture. So thank you, Fast Forward Conference, for those emotions, for knowledge and for research. But we are in panels, so first question. I would like to ask you about your most significant curatorial dilemma. You shared with us a lot of them, but if you would choose one, which one it would be? Susanna.
Well, I didn't choose any dilemma. I'd prefer working without dilemmas, but I think it's you cannot separate it. They are connected, and I think we all talked about the invisibility and how to actually create for me, in my case, I'm particularly working in the 19th century. So I'm dealing with the distance of time that creates already a big barrier. Also because the archives are still to be found and work with. We talked about also about this diplomacy that we have to have by working with different where the archive is actually. For me, probably. And I've also shown that here there are many ways of invisibility. The physical ones for erasing actually the names of the women, like in those albums or in the diploma, but also like in the administratively, how they disappear, and so how they are not inscribed. So for me, the dilemma is to deal with these different kinds of invincibility that you well, have to face, and it's not clear because at the beginning they are not there, and then you are finding ways and inventing methodologies to actually become visible. So yes, there are many ways of invisibility. So this is for me the dilemma.
Thank you. Baiba?
Maybe I pass who practice. So I can just say Ruta Zināras Sniķeris, maybe through her prisma, but I think she knew how to deal with dilemmas, because I think in 1990s was this most biggest dilemma was this logistics, and she solved it very easily, very arranged. Basically, there was this scheme how she managed to circulate the works from Latvia to States and back dollars. So basically, the contact, professional contact was Vilnis Auziņš, head of the Latvian Museum of Photography. So basically, he coordinated and collected the works, and then from photographers, because photographers, not to bother them with these practicalities, and send to with somebody who also traveled to transatlantic to Boston, and to give Ruta Ināras Sniķeris. So if she succeeded to sell, then she sent envelope and with the dollars. And as I understood, like to be sure, like to secure that not to send the big money in one envelope. That was the practice that they sent $1 in one envelope, and then from photographers I learned that basically you could live 1 week with that money. So it was also like this economical, but that is
Thank you,
that is just
Katarzyna.
additional information.
I have already addressed some curatorial dilemmas in my presentation, but I think the biggest challenge that I haven't talked about in the presentation was to keep the balance between these two artists, where obviously Lotte Jacobi is such a big name and such a famous person, and she has photographed Albert Einstein and Chagall and everybody else. So what to do, you know, in this little space, how to compare these two artists without one eating up the other. But I hope I've done it well. I don't know, you have to judge me.
I think it would just be to say that often I find that it's the curatorial, like it's the dilemma that shapes the curatorial work. I think if there wasn't something that you were that was niggling, that you were going back to in an issue that's come up, I think it's the gaps or the thing that continually bothers you, or that you come back to that. That's kind of what shapes how the curatorial kind of practice unfolds. So I would wish to embrace the dilemmas where possible.
Thank you, Jenna. I think we have some time also for audience question. We have a question.
Yes,
Okay.
I had a question first for Katarzyna. I really liked your beautiful exhibition.
Thank you.
And but I wondered, you were speaking about how they have been neglected and ignored in art history and photography, historiography. So, but yesterday at the opening, there seems to be such a huge local interest, and I wondered if you already had some reviews on your exhibition.
Thank you for this question. Yeah, the audience was really enormous. But I don't know the audience. There were some friends of mine that came from Bydgoszcz. I think maybe some of the people still remember Janina Gardzielewska. That's why, or maybe the family of Janina Gardzielewska. But you know, to be a passive observer in a gallery is a different thing than to be an active researcher and to do all this work and all this job and to dig into the archives. And nobody wants to do this, especially if there is a peripheral name in the province, because you know it's easy to engage in big names, famous people write books, then everybody will publish it. But who would write a review of an exhibition if it was just Janina Gardzielewska? Let's be honest.
Thank you. But I also had a question for Susanna. I was wondering why you chose. I mean, you're addressing 19th century photographers, and why are you choosing middle class and upper class amateurs and not commercial photographers? I'm
Thank you.
biased, of course.
No, they were both they are both in the research project. Both lists we separated amateur from professionals. We are starting with the amateurs, and in the amateurs they are mostly upper class women. So there aren't in this particular period they didn't have access to photography. Other women, so they were empowered by their families that could make photography. So I didn't choose specifically them. In the case of amateur photographers, those are the most preserved archives we have, mainly from the families that actually maintained the archives, or the public archives that afterwards acquire them. So this is how we could develop our research more in this context. There are it's more dispersed, the professional archives. It demands another sort of research method, and we didn't start yet on that. We have the list, but we didn't start yet.
So thank you for your presentation. I have a suggestion for Susanna. I remain very struck when you said, commenting a picture, you said, I recognized the authorship of this woman because I went out of the frame. In my mind, it means to choose another perspective, to go out of the norms, coming back to materiality. I think that you want to say this. So the object, reading the notes, and restart to study picture in its materiality. So we may say that this is a sort of philosophical path for you, your research method to find a new perspective on women photographers?
So now, at this point, I couldn't go further in this critical analysis of the photos. Thank you for the question, actually. So I have if I'm showing them and they were not seen before, I'm at probably in a very in a more like historiographer or curator mode at this point in the research. But actually, I'm willing to have a little bit more distance, so I can actually stop one of the photos of Maria da Conceição Lemos Magalhães, so I can actually analyze the specific part where she is photographing the persons that are working for her. That's actually where I want to go deeper on this relation, because it's actually quite, for me at least, I believe it's quite unusual the way she is positioning both as a photographer and a pictorialist photographer, and at the same time she was running the farm, and she was not exactly describing the work, but she was making the workers being some sort of models at the same time. And for me, that this is very complex pictures for that structure of relation between a photographer and a model, and both women. So I would like to go further on, but I didn't have still, because the project is quite recent and the discovery of the pictures are for me also recent, I couldn't go to a deeper analysis of these pictures, but I will go there. I don't know if I answered, but thank you.
Oh, thank you. This is a question really to all of you, and I just wondered how much audience was a curatorial dilemma and how much desired audience, or is that in your head all the time? I know you said you didn't really know who was at the private view, but I'm sure you knew who probably would turn up, and you know, there's quite different contexts for each of your outputs, whether it's photo-specific spaces or, you know, it's just obviously from the national institution I work for, we're always very mindful of, you know, what we show and who we hope it reaches and things. So just interested.
Who would like to start?
I can answer because you addressed me directly. Yeah, I've said that I didn't know the people because I'm not from this town, because I live in another town. I only commute here to work. But this contemporary center of modern art always has its own audience, and it's a huge audience because it's the biggest center for art exhibitions in the whole region. Yes, Anna, Kornelia, will you agree? It is the biggest, yeah, the biggest building, the most modern, whatever. So there's also always a big audience. But here were many things together, like a local name, like Jędrzejewska, then, you know, the famous name Lotte Jacobi, then the Vintage Photo Festival, which also promotes it as a part of the Fast Forward conference, etc., etc. So I don't really know if it wasn't for all these collaboratives, if the audience would be also that big. To be honest, when I was doing the exhibition, I was only thinking about you. When Anna decided and Maria Kapaeva that we can do this in Poland, then I was thinking to myself, okay, there will be all these great curators from all the world and researchers and all these great women. They have to have some exhibitions to look at in Toruń. What can I offer them, you know, which is not boring and very local, but still local in a way. That was my my curatorial dilemma. So I was specifically thinking of you while curating this exhibition.
It is really important to think of an audience in terms of layout. I'd mentioned that I think that now this is very sweeping to say this, but I think often women's biography completely can overshadow in a curated exhibition the actual work. So it was very much a conscious decision to have the audience encounter the work first, and then kind of in the Women in Society room for Glean, for example, the biographies, like I looked at the biography as such that these women were photographers in rural and urban society, so they were kind of fitted in that remit. But it's just how somebody encounters the work that was very important. And then sometimes it's just sometimes it comes down to very satisfying with like a hidden detail. So I'd chosen glean as the word like in the show because it operated on different levels. It was a term for farm labour. It was a term for the women who were trying to glean things from the people they photographed, and then myself as the researcher gleaning kind of from the archives. And I came across in The Listener a Margaret Fay Shaw photograph entitled The Gleaner. So I made sure that that was kind of just that you'd be, I think it's like those sort of small things as well can give a lot of pleasure to somebody looking around an exhibition, so down to the detail as well as the overall layout.
I can also answer. We were very happy with the reception because we got feedback from different audiences. So we made these activities for small kids, but we also had in the main wall these names.
And for us, the names were important to actually be able to receive more names or to receive more things from those names, and we had that actually. So also students, of course. I'm real connected to the university. It was very important that this topic was not outside the university; it was actually involving the students, and so I think yes. A parallel program is essential. Guided visits are essential, for obviously, and we did it. But mainly this also the families that were curious to see the name are sometimes just a name that involved for us more information. Yes.
Do we have time for the last question? Yeah. Okay.
I have a question that maybe will hurt you, but do you think to the male audience? Is it a dilemma curatorial? A curatorial dilemma?
Great question. Who will answer first? Jenna?
You go.
It's very enjoyable to cause pain. So I would think that with for example, the Frankie Raffles show, it was, I think, somebody coming in was completely hit by it. It was women at work, and the male characters in the frame were always very small and in the periphery. So I think you kind of got bombarded with like a women's world. I think sometimes, like, you know, it's led through the work, isn't it? It's led through by who you're looking at's work. But I would say that those kind of encounters are important.
I just have an anecdote to say about last night's opening, when the director was greeting everybody and saying like hello to Mary Roberts and Anna Fox and Fast Forward and Katarzyna Mączewska from National Museum, whatever. And there were two older guys sitting just behind me when I was standing, and they were like, in Polish it is same baby, and in English it is only women. You know, it was so absurd to them that only they are greeting women, you know, so something which is a standard for many women to listen to only men. There was like, only women, and then the other guy said, yes, because it's an only women show.
I don't think I was when we are working, or we have men in our team, so I don't think maybe I'm in a bubble and I don't realize that, but I don't separate. I was hoping they didn't also, but for my part, it's audience. I mean, both male or anything. For me, so I didn't prepare the exhibition on that sense, and I didn't get any comments on that sense too. So maybe, well, we are for the moment quite okay. But I didn't separate it in my vision.
But it was a great question, Maria, and it's a very important question. Thank you.
Thank you for your all inspirational presentation. Thank you for your presence. I remember that we have final words also to close the second day of the conference. I only would like to invite you tomorrow to Bydgoszcz. We will meet there and we will share our experiences about curatorial dilemmas, how to make 14 photographical exhibition in 3 weeks. So I will waiting for you tomorrow. Thank you.